Greetings, everyone. My name is Kevin Sipp. I am a project supervisor for the City of Atlanta's Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs. I run Gallery 72 here for the City of Atlanta, and I also run the Mayor's Gallery, which is situated at City Hall. I also coordinate with fellow public art team members, all public art for the City of Atlanta. So I'm happy to be here. And I also want to introduce you to two wonderful creatives in the world, Lisa Dawn Taylor and Leslie Bernardo Dixon. Greetings.
Greetings.
Hi.
And what I would love for each of you to do is tell the world about yourself, what you do. And I'll start with you, Lisa.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having us. I am the founder and the publisher of Current Magazines here in Chicago, which is a trio of local magazines. We tell the good news of our communities. We cover the entire South Side along with the West Side of Chicago. And one of the things that is most striking about our magazine is our front covers, which we have awesome illustrators, painters, photographers. We're always featuring them. And we wanted to bring that more to life. So we started the Current Galleries, of which Ben Leslie and I partnered, and we do exhibitions here in Chicago, juried art exhibitions, and we host galleries. And that is one of the things that led us to become familiar with you and everything that Hammonds House Museum is doing.
Okay. And you, Leslie?
How you doing? I'm an artist here in Chicago, Illinois, originally from Nashville, Tennessee. I've been studying the arts for quite some time. Well, been drawing ever since I can hold a pencil. Basically, what it is that we do, we have a house of studios to where we invite artists to come. You can come here to learn, to grow, and to communicate with other artists, to get that creative vibe going. But my primary thing is to actually educate and help artists to make their next step into the next journey so that they continue to grow and, focus on what it is that they want to do as an artist.
Okay. And Lisa, I'm going to jump back to you for a minute. You told us about your current incarnation. What led you to creating the magazine, and give us a little bit more of your background?
Okay, well, I am a graphic designer by trade and also a writer. And one of the things that's been frustrating to me as a lifelong born and bred Southsider in Chicago is the perception that everything that's going on out here is bad. We do have a few problems, but there's a wealth of great people, great happenings that are never, ever covered in mainstream media. Yes. Let them tell it. We're just out here ducking bullets and stuff. So the magazine's mission is to focus on that good news, on the people, the culture, the art, and businesses as well. We also serve as a catalyst to help promote local businesses and to let the community know who is in the community that they can patronize and that will help keep the communities healthy. So the magazine actually started with a youth program called One Summer Chicago. And it was hosted by Buffy, which is Black United Fund of Illinois. And I actually worked with about 12 to 15 high school and college students in the beginning. And we collected information, we collected content, we filmed. That's actually where I met Leslie. We filmed at his studio. Leslie was actually the very first cover in 2014 of the South Shore Current, which was the original magazine that was covering the southeast side of Chicago. And then 2 years later, we did West of the Ryan, which is still south, but it's west of our main corridor, which is the Dam Ryan Expressway. And then just this year in 2020, we are covering the West Side with the West Side Current.
And I
Um,
and I will say this: I went online as we all do and looked at some of those beautiful covers
it
from
is,
past
yeah,
events, and they're just
yeah,
phenomenal. So I'm just so
hmm
happy we can make this
yeah,
connection.
right.
Um, so let's see. I want you to give the public a little bit of a background as to what led us to this moment and what initiated you to kind of start gathering artists for this social justice exhibition uh, that we're basically speaking about, elements of a revolution.
Okay, so basically, Lisa and I had just recently hosted a exhibition, and it was called "This Is the Current." This is the
Hmm.
current is a show to where a lot of artists can get together and they compete for the grand prize, which is three covers, um, an article, a professional photo shoot, and more importantly, to give the artist exposure, because that's
Hmm.
basically what we're all about. Because since I play both sides of the coin, um, I know what goes into it with the artist, and I know what goes on the other side. So the thing is, a lot of artists don't have the opportunity to get the recognition that they want. And
Mhm.
when we hosted the show, I mean, we had a lot of interest in it, and that's when the pandemic had started, and we had to go through
Hmm.
all that stuff. But people still came to see the show, but we had to limit the amount of people that were actually here to visit the show.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So we we have an artist. His name is correct me if I'm mistaken, Lisa. Is it Milton Brown?
Milton Brown.
All right,
Milton Brown.
Okay.
Milton
Hmm.
Brown. He had the idea, and it just slingshot from there. We just took it and ran with it. Then that's when we came in. Well, I have other artists that I deal with across the state as well. And then we have a close niche, or we're kind of a band of brothers where we all get
Hmm.
together, we collaborate, we keep each other motivated. That's the most important, keeping each other motivated, and
Hmm.
pointing out mistakes that we make, and it's just us growing together. And then one of the artists, his name is Dwayne Mitchell. He's there in Atlanta with you.
Yes,
Um,
just to interject, he just did the missing and murdered children portraits for the
yes,
city of Atlanta, which
yes.
is
Hmm.
a heartbreaking but phenomenal series of portraits. So
Yes,
yes.
yes, and we all went through that process with him. So I
Mm.
mean, and it was a great experience, to see that and to learn even more about it. And then from that, we just came up with the idea. Lisa and I, we talked, and I talked with
Hmm.
those guys, and here we are today. When
Hmm.
you came across, and it just started skyrocketing. And then from there, we got some other ideas that we can't wait to put our hands on.
Yeah.
That's understood because for me, of course, just when the pandemic hit, the mayor's office of cultural affairs here had decided we would support artists through the pandemic by putting out a call for writers, a call for photographers, a call for artists, dancers, and musicians. And we basically paid the visual artists for work. We paid the writers to write stories about the pandemic, and we paid photographers to photograph issues around the pandemic. And since we had to cancel the Atlanta Jazz Festival this year, we paid musicians to create virtual concerts. And we also reached out to choreographers to do choreographed films that we also created a platform for. But in the midst of all of that, Ahmaud Arbery's case came up. And
Hmm.
and it was like, here we go again.
Yeah.
In the midst of dealing with the pandemic through a visual art initiative, we suddenly were back in the midst of the ongoing issue around social justice and the targeting of the Black body in America. And Dwayne Mitchell, the artist who you spoke of, he reached out to me about the project you guys were working on. And it was a no brainer for me. Sure, let's figure out a way we could collaborate to ask artists to create works that basically express how they feel about this moment and how they have been feeling before this moment around issues of social justice. And I think it's an important thing to do. There are people who always have a few misconceptions about artists and how they feel about their art in service of social justice. And I would just like either of you to talk about the response you got when you asked artists to submit works for this exhibition, Elements of a Revolution, and how how that went about and what was the emotional response to it. I'll go back to you, Leslie, and then jump to Lisa.
Okay. Well, really, when we started taking the show down, Lisa and I had already started communicating about the exhibition, and at that point, we had made contact with you, and then we just started mapping everything out. And when I would have artists come in for their artwork to take down from the exhibition, I would mention it to them. And some of the guys, before I even got it out and just told them the name, they were already on board because they all have something that they would like to say in their own way, whether you're a photographer, illustrator, painter, whether you do it in oils, clay, whatever you do it in, they have a sense to express themselves, to say what it is that they would like to say, whether it's vocally or visually. And, a lot of the people that I deal with, we all do it visually. And it's been creative to see. It's been a really good experience to see what people have to say, whether you're an abstract artist or a figurative, whether you have a certain style or you do collage. It's like they all have something to say. So my response from the people that I've talked to, they were already on board before I even finished telling them what the idea was or what the exhibition was. So it was a no-brainer to them.
Yeah, art. I'm sorry. Art is actually a reflection of our society because it comes from the emotional place of the artist. And I think right now what we're seeing is this outpouring of anger, outrage, grief, and hope, which is what protest is about, a hope that we can change society. And so I think it is just almost every artist has already created multiple pieces around this subject because it is just what's on our mind. And so that is why that the idea for the I Can't Breathe exhibition that is coming up that we're going to do in January here.
Yes.
And hopefully it will travel around to you guys and other places. It is just, there's no end to the created work that's already out there that artists have created, even on the buildings. Unfortunately, as a result of the looting that, was the opportunists took around the protest, many buildings have been boarded up, right? And the artists that came out and they have covered these boards with such great art is amazing. It's like you're not driving down the street, some of the harder hit streets that it looked really sad when it first happened, but now you go by and it's filled with historical images, with the images of the victims that we are protesting about. So I think that it's just a natural result of that the artists would come and have this outpouring of their feelings, which became a political statement.
And what's interesting about it, you talked about the artists kind of painting over those boarded up buildings. Immediately comes to mind for me, anybody who's a student of art history knows about Chicago's Wall of Respect and the echoes of that and the reasons why it was created. Here we are again,
here we are,
2020, harking back to those inspired Afro-Cobra artists and all those other Chicago artists who created that wall back then. And even this exhibition is actually opening during the City of Atlanta's Elevate Art Festival that we do every year. And we migrated to different neighborhoods. And this year, the Elevate Arts Festival is going to be in the West End area of Atlanta, near the Atlanta University Center, home to a lot of historical Black professors and families and history, where W.E.B. Du Bois taught. You have all this rich history in the West End. And one of the things we wanted to make sure we did with this exhibit was talk about this ongoing arc and the repeated cycles of history that art has been able to remind us of. I think about where we were 100 years ago in 1920 in America and where we are now. And there were more riots back then than there were in the 60s. And most of those riots were initiated by racist whites attempting to murder and chase successful African American business people out of their successful lives and to
Mhm.
murder them for being successful. And so when I looked at the artists that I wanted to bring into the exhibition, I wanted to make sure that we spoke to that incredible, necessary reminder of the arc of history, but also bringing it to the present. The intergenerational quality of this exhibit is something that I'm very proud of as well. The international quality of this exhibit. One of the photographers I brought in is from Iran, but he's an international AP photographer as well. And so he captured a lot of the protests that took place down here. Now, you spoke of those buildings being burned and the looting. And there's been a lot of that happening here as well, because also in the midst of this, we had the Rayshard Brooks shooting happen here in Atlanta. And the sense of frustration that people of color are feeling across the country and really across the globe at the indifference. Um, can you speak to me about any particular artist and any statement they gave you as they decided to put in the works they put in? That can be either Lisa or Leslie. One piece I think of in particular was I wish I had his name in front of me, but he did the beautiful uh, Wakanda in Me painting of the sister. Do you know who I'm talking about, Leslie? I don't have it in front of me. Um, well, I was just looking at the fact not only did this artist do historical figures, but he also spoke to this idea of an Afrofuturism, this idea of something beyond the struggle we're going through now, but what I call the other side of freedom. Can you give me any one statement that stood out when the artists were bringing their works in, or when you took those in for this selection to be in this exhibition?
Basically, one statement. I it gave me chills just speaking of it. Yeah, and his name was Raymond Mays.
Yes.
That was his statement. It gave me chills. It does something to me, and then instinctively he had several pieces that he came up with that he had in his stable. So yeah, it gives me chills. That's all.
Do you remember any of the statements he gave you, or was just the process of taking that in and listening to the artist speak about it?
I think that right there is what stood out most to me, because really when people talk about stuff like that, it doesn't move them like that. They'll tell you how it feels, but for someone to sit there and as I'm talking to them and it's just giving him chills, it's doing something to his inner soul to where he really wants to do this. So yeah, that's the only one that really stuck out to me as far as talking to artists.
And you, Lisa?
Well, Seaborn Grant, I think one of the images you may be using, his imagery of all of the victims which we're fighting for justice for, and the title, he titled the image Catalyst.
Yes.
Which I find very it's very appropriate, and that about and a little bit about Seaborn. And Seaborn happens to be the winner of our first Current Arts Award from the past exhibition, and he is a very prolific artist. He's an I think older gentleman. I don't want to say it, but
he's a distinguished elder. I saw him. He's a distinguished elder.
Well, he's so young in spirit, I can't always tell. But he actually he gifted me a T-shirt with that image on it, and I think it's just so interesting now that the generations have found a meeting of the minds, that there are people that were here before in the 60s and fighting for civil rights, and here they are today with the young people out there today. And so I just find that that just struck me, that when I saw that image, and I'm glad you chose it for some of the promotional.
Well, what's interesting about that, guess whose exhibition image opens the virtual show? Seaborn and Catalyst.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
thinking alike in that. I mean,
Yeah.
when I saw that image, I said, okay, this pretty much sets the stage for what we're talking about
Yeah.
and who we're talking about and
Yeah.
why we're talking about this.
Hmm.
So I totally concur with you. When I saw Sebron's piece, it was just so powerful and necessary for me because it made me reflect on so many things as well. Because being an artist
Hmm.
as well as an administrator, I've often had to grapple with these issues in my work.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
often tell people that I will never forgive this country for Trayvon Martin. I will never
Hmm.
forgive this country for Breonna Taylor in the sense that they have to earn the right to respect again when they're letting innocent African Americans die at the hands of perpetrators, and the
Hmm.
perpetrators are allowed to walk away.
Yes.
And it's one of those issues that, as an artist, I think it was necessary for all of us to coalesce around. Because I always
Hmm.
think of the great poet and writer in New Orleans, Kalamu Yasalam, who
Hmm.
basically said, when someone asked him, when did you become an activist as an artist? And he had to remind them that I was born Black in America, so I was always an activist, and the
Hmm.
art came in service of that later. So this
Right.
sense of that living in this country often puts you in places you don't want to be to deal with issues you don't want to deal with. But in order to fight for that dignity and respect, we must commit to that. And this
Hmm.
show, so many of the artists in this show have done that. And I'm really, really, like I said, appreciative of the Chicago contingent and what you have brought to the show. And I can't wait for you to see the Atlanta contingent as well, because I think once you see the entire exhibition together, you'll see this beautiful arc. I do have a question. Were there any street artists, Leslie, that you put into the exhibition? Anybody who, because one of the sad things about this exhibit, I went looking for a particular street artist who's always drawing the current issues, but I wasn't able to catch him, unfortunately, in the time of COVID because people aren't out like that anymore.
Right.
And
Hmm.
so, were there any artists you wanted to have in the show that you just couldn't catch up with?
Yeah, there were plenty of them. It's just that the ones, considering the time, I just had to call the ones that I knew. And then Lisa, she chimed in and gave me a few
Hmm.
artists that I didn't think of, because I was trying to think of everyone that I could.
Yeah.
And it was just the ones that was close to me. As for street artists, no, I didn't get a chance to
Yeah.
talk to anyone.
Street artists are hard to pin down sometimes. I wish they put their their number on the side of the building with it. So, and some of them it's hard to figure out who it was if they didn't properly put their name or tag in. You do know some. It's just they're very hard to catch up with right now. And for the future exhibits, I think before the winter hits, we may have some photographs so that we can document the art that adorned our streets before Chicago winter kind of.
Now, one of the things I would also like to bring up, the I Can't Breathe exhibit that you'll be pulling together. Will you have a set group of artists, or will the show be one of those shows that can grow locally as it travels? And what I mean by that is, will there be a space where you have a packaged exhibition that you want to travel around the country? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but as you go, you might find artists that you want to include. How will that work out?
Mm-hmm.
Or will it just be a set group of artists and a set show?
Well, the right now submissions are open, and we will be reaching out everywhere. It's not limited to Chicago artists to submit to the show, but of course, I do think that as it travels, we would probably like to include a local element
Mhm.
to each show. Some pieces will be with shipping costs right now be a little
Yes.
prohibitive to travel. So we would probably consider a local section of each show for those type of pieces where they weren't able to ship them and we weren't able to get them transported. And that I'm pretty almost 100% sure will be part of the exhibition.
Okay, now Leslie, tell me about the pieces you put in the exhibition and give people a little background on them and your technique.
One of the pieces I entered personally is called "Am I Next?" You know, because when you see all these things happening to young Black men and women, you know, it can easily be one of us, and that's just the way I look at it. I mean, we can easily be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And since 2012, I've been developing this style called ANI, which is Afrocentric Neo-Impressionism. It's a style of art that I've been developing since 2012, and it's continued to grow. I've actually got a nice little following for the style. It has a footprint on the internet and everything. And I felt that that style that I'm working on, it is characterized as expressive, colorful, with thick, bold brushstrokes, and it focuses on the African culture and our history. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, you know, everything that's going on right now is history. So me being an artist, I think one of the jobs as artists is to document, record, and that's what we're doing. That's what a lot of us is doing. Primarily, that's what this show is all about. It's about artists documenting, recording what is going on. Not only is this history, we're living history. So with that style, it says a lot. It dates back to when we've actually started having art in our own little communities when we got away from slavery. I even researched it even further back because I was influenced by all the art from what we did in history, because it was introduced to me. I think it was 2012 when it was introduced to me. A group of collectors collect something, a style of art called Gullah art. And then from that, Jonathan Green, you know, he's famous for that, and other artists like him, Kerry James Marshall, he's one that paints in that style. So basically, I've just taken it and added my own thumbprint on it, and I've been getting really good reviews from it. So
yeah, it makes me also think of like the highwaymen in Florida. You know, you have these pockets of us expressing ourselves and trying to capture a bit of our not just struggle, but also our peace and our dreams in our art.
Exactly.
So Lisa, when it comes to art, social justice, and like I say, the struggle and continuing fight for freedom, how impactful do you feel art is for the community in terms of social justice?
Well, art is a healer, actually. It's an expression that one of our missions involves. That's why we the magazine itself is very active in the art world. So I do think that it gives an expression and a permanence to what is happening, which hopefully will be, you know, it will serve as a historical marker in the future, and hopefully we will have resolved some kind of resolution. I don't know, given last night. I don't know, but hopefully
we can timestamp this and say we're speaking the day after the first Biden Trump presidential debacle. We won't now called not a debate, but I hear you. We are politically neutral in my official capacity, but let's be clear, it was a mess.
Yeah, I mean it's you know, I don't know, it was just amazing that in 2020 we just have a president that cannot say the words "I denounce white supremacy." So,
well, you know, why would he when he does not?
Right, exactly. Hey, I mean, at least,
as everybody keeps saying, Maya Angelou's words. If they show you who they are, believe them. And on the flip side of that, that's what we're doing with art as well. We're trying to counter the negative stereotypes that this country has perpetuated about the African body, the African mind, the African philosophical reach, with positivity. We're not blind positively, not with blind positivity, but with insightful positivity. And one of the things I'm really excited about with this show is that it will show not only the quality of our art, but the quality of our thinking about these issues. And like you said, Lisa, I tell people all the time, you got almost two parallel histories that go on in the world. You have a data driven history that tells you somebody went from point A to point B, but then you have an artistic history that tells you how people felt as they were going from point A to point B and giving you a broader understanding of what they were feeling, what they were thinking, what they were dreaming. And that's where art comes in. And I think this exhibition is going to give people a truly like I say, a snapshot of the quality of artists we have working in the African American and African diasporic society. I'm already thinking this show needs to expand. You know, one thing about doing this virtual exhibition, it lets me know that we can travel the world now and cut down a little bit on the shipping costs. Not that I can't wait for us to physically get back in the galleries and interact, but until we're safe, there's so many other ways we can get the word out. And I'm just so happy that we as artists and art administrators and curators and magazine publishers are contributing to this moment with this project. What do you hope the impact is for the public, Leslie?
That is an eye opener. I look at it from different all points of views. For starters, I want the public, not just our people, but everyone to view this style of art, this creativity that comes from us. I mean, this is art. I mean, regardless of what you say or how you feel about it, or if it's not something you're used to, this is art. You know, that's primarily my main thing is for it to be an eye opener for not just us, but for everyone, and to spark something in someone to where we will at least take a step forward, you know, in the right direction. Because right now, it's a mess.
How about you, Lisa?
I would hope that it will be not only an artistic experience for people, but a learning experience. And like Leslie said, that hopefully that it will cross out into other cultures, other peoples, that they can see and understand the frustration and the pain around the subject. So it's just that if you don't know, some people just don't know. They're not inherently they're not inherently racist, or they're not inherently not caring. They just don't know, or they don't understand. And I think that exhibitions like this can serve as a teacher, a learning experience, so that people, because art is in a way subjective, you look at it and you interpret it yourself, actually. And I hope that people will come and internalize some of the information, learn something they didn't know. You know, we all think we know everything, but the expressions come out in such a variety of ways that I don't think anyone could walk away from that not taking something out with them. And that's what I would hope, that they would take something out that maybe inspire them to do their own form of activism.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. As I was taking in the art submissions and populating them on a slideshow and getting them prepared for the virtual exhibition, I was thinking in my mind how I wish we had the poets speaking and the musicians playing, because a lot of the work was just evoking so many emotions, so many songs, so many words I've heard from great speakers and great teachers, that I was almost walking down not only this memory lane of emotion around social justice in America, but also, like I said, the other side of freedom, this hope for future that we will get to. And this season of turbulence that we're in, and like you said, it's the idea of using art to remind people of their greatness, to remind people of their humanity, to remind people of their dignity, but also to remind people of their responsibility to this. is a extremely necessary thing. And I think this exhibition will give them that. It will give them uh, heartbreak, but it will also give them heartfelt emotion moving forward. As one of my elders said about this current moment we're in, like you pointed out, Lisa, to have people who fought for our rights in the 60s so we could get the right to vote. And
Mhm.
the young teenagers who were there then are those elders now. Here we are again. And one elder put it simply, I'm heartbroken that we're here, but I'm also hopeful because the youth is ready to fight with us. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things that, like you say, we don't want to be here, but if we are
Mhm.
here, we're going to collectively be here in a unified voice and in a unified
Right.
way.
Right.
And I think this exhibition brings two great cities and the
Mhm.
surrounding states together for such an exhibition. So I'm thankful that Dwayne Mitchell let me know about what was going on and that I was able to reach out to both of you to bring this collective exhibition together because I do know since we both come from cities that are run by two phenomenal sister mayors,
Yes.
uh,
Yeah.
and very proud of that. Um, and those who are committed to social justice as well. I think
Mhm.
this exhibition will do both cities proud. I think the sister cities of Chicago and Atlanta, you know, two chocolate cities in the past, or
Mhm.
depending on what side of town you're on now.
Yeah.
Right.
um, we're just happy that we can have these type of collaborations because it not only expands our commitment, but it also gives us a chance to see artists from other cities and what they're doing, and hopefully bring them physically to each other's cities in the future.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
are there any closing statements either of you would like to make?
Well, I just like to say, Kevin, thank you for having us. And this is a really exciting thing. We've all been cooped up. We
Yes.
still sort of cooped up. And this feels a little like an opening, even though it's virtual, that we can reach Atlanta and Atlanta can reach us here in Chicago. So I just like to say thank you for that. And I'm really excited to see the final, the exhibition. I think it's a wonderful thing. Thank you so much for doing that.
And I also would like to say thank you as well. You know,
Mhm.
this opportunity not only for you and ourselves, but for the artists that are participating. You know,
Yes.
it's all about the
Yeah.
art and to get
Mhm.
the message out so that we can make people aware. Uh, just want to thank you for that platform, and hopefully everyone would appreciate what it is that you're doing and the city of Chicago is doing.
No, no, they
Mhm.
will. I think everybody will be proud in both cities. And I want to mention this as well. Like I said, I work for the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs for the City of Atlanta, and this exhibition will be opening during our Elevate Art Festival. And this year's theme for Elevate is equity, engagement, and activism.
Mhm.
It could be no other way with all that's going on in the country right now, and also
Mhm.
to have it taking place in the West End, and it's in the historical neighborhoods within the West End, and near the historical Black colleges in the West End. I think this is a very timely exhibition for this festival. I also want to definitely mention the Hammonds House Museum. Um, and the reason I have to do a little extra mention to them because I worked for the Hammonds House for many, many years, and I can tell you it's one of the special places in American culture. The house is named after Otis Thrash Hammonds, who was an African American doctor who collected Black art. And when he passed away, they turned his house, his Victorian home, into one of the most phenomenal African American art museums in the country. You're talking about someone who collected the works of Remere Bearden, who collected the works of Catlett, who collected the works of all our great masters, past and present during his lifetime. And to have someone who committed their life to showcasing our culture in the most beautiful of ways through his collecting, it's really, really a proud moment for me that this virtual exhibit is being hosted by the Hammonds House Museum. And I highly recommend anyone who's never been there to come through its doors. And I can't wait for Leslie and Lisa to bring that show physically.
Right. We
Yes,
can't wait either.
to Atlanta one day, and we're very excited about it. Um,
Mhm.
So thank you as well.